In this coronavirus crisis, I suppose it's inevitable that a minister's funeral workload would increase. Well, last week I shared with a family who were beginning their journey through bereavement. And that journey is perhaps the most difficult one of all, and yet it's one we probably all have to face at some point in life. And it's on that journey that we sometimes struggle to cope with the pain of loss and ask ourselves the most penetrating and searching questions of life. And yet the message of our scripture reading today is that on that journey we don't travel alone. It was a Sunday evening when two of Jesus' followers were walking together into the sunset. They were going home from Jerusalem to the village of Emmaus. And it was as they travelled that they met this stranger and they spoke together of the events of the last few days. And as they talked, they shared their shattered hopes and their disappointed dreams. And yet it wasn't until later on, as he sat down and broke the bread with them, that they recognised their Lord. They had walked the whole weary road with him, discussing with each step their hopes and their fears, listening to what he was telling them. And yet it wasn't until later that they recognised their Lord. It was as they looked back on the journey, with the benefit of hindsight, that they saw that they were never alone, and that it was Jesus who walked along with them. The message of our scripture today is that on our journey, we don't travel alone either. Did you know that the Kilmarnock Standard used to produce an annual? And that annual, through pictures and articles and old photographs, told the story of Kilmarnock in any one particular year. Well, somebody lent me the annual from 1958, and it was full of fascinating facts. But it was the article on the changes in the church in Kilmarnock that I found most interesting of all. The minister in St John's on Thank that year had just left to work in Bombay. The minister in Henderson had been called to a Presbyterian church in Harrow, and the Reverend Peter Reevy had retired because of ill health from Portland Road Church after 27 years as minister there. And we were told that in Belfield, the walls of the new church were rising fast, while the congregation met in Belfield House for their Sunday service. Just a snapshot of 1 year of the history of this town. But it was a fascinating read. 2020 will be a year that not many of us will forget in a hurry. And the story of this year will be focused on the virus, and focused in particular on how we responded and cared and shared throughout it all. Whatever the future holds, whatever stage we're at on life's journey, whatever route we've taken or might yet still take, of this we stand assured that we travel nowhere on our own. For that's our scripture message. And it's often only in hindsight, and as we look back along the road we've travelled, that we recognise his company on the way.